What's going on, guys? How is everybody doing today? I hope you are doing good because I'm doing fabulous. Alright, so yesterday was Father's Day, and in light of that, I think I've maybe only talked about my dad like once or so. So, you know what? I figured why not? Let's make a storytime video about all these great memories that I have with my dad. So, the first one is I think I might have mentioned it in a previous video where essentially I had gotten hurt, and instead of waiting till he got off of work and then coming, like the second that he found out I was even hurt or anything like that, he sprang into action, got off of work, and made sure that I was okay and that I was being taken care of. And that's really just one of many memories that I have of my dad like that, where he's so careless. I think that's the word that you would use in that situation. I don't know, but like he would much rather put my well-being and my safety ahead of his. And that's one thing that I've always appreciated and that I've always tried to apply to my own life because of him, because he's the reason that I want to be like that. I really strive to be like that and be like him in that sense. Another fond memory that I have with my dad, which may not make sense to a lot of people, but it definitely makes sense to me because that's how I grew up. There's a running joke that me and my dad have had even until this day, where anytime that I do, something like if I hurt myself, or if I just do something kind of dumb, that could have been avoided, the way to say it in Spanish is he would always ask me, ¿por qué te pegaste? And in English, that would essentially mean like, why did you hit yourself? Why did you hurt yourself? Something along those lines. It can be varied, depending on what the situation called for. So essentially he would ask me, ¿por qué te pegaste? Why'd you hit me? And I would always say, or he would always make me say, por qué. And essentially to translate that into English is because I'm stupid, or because I was dumb, because I didn't do it right. And that's been a running joke for the longest time with me and my dad. And it might not make sense, to have your kid say something like that, but essentially that's, like me and him trying to make light of a situation. I mean, because him and I both realized that what I did was kind of dumb in how I hurt myself. It could have been avoided if I would just been paying attention. And that's essentially another thing I think that makes my dad essentially my best friend, is because, we understand each other. We know how we both work, how we both tick, and there's certain ways that the way that we interact with each other definitely helps us bond a little bit more, even just by kind of saying stuff. Because even vice versa, if he does something where he, like, let's say bangs his foot or something, and then in turn I say ¿por qué te pegaste? And he would say por qué, because that's how we work. We're very close like that, and that's how how we bond. Another very interesting memory that I have of my dad is when I was younger, I guess. Well, I mean, he'd be younger too, I guess, because if I'm young, he doesn't just stay the same age. We actually had jet skis. We had two jet skis that we would share, within the family. And anytime anybody wanted to go down to the lake or take the jet skis or anything like that, we would all go. We would make a big family trip, like my uncles would go, my aunts would go, my cousins. It'd be just a great big thing. So obviously, being a little kid, I wasn't allowed to steer, or work the throttle or anything. I'd kind of just have to sit in front of him and kind of hold on, to like little bars or whatever, while my dad steered it and worked the throttle and all that stuff on the jet ski. So finally, when I got a little bit older, I might have been, I don't know, maybe like 9, 10, 11, around that age, I kind of understood, how certain machines work, vehicles work, stuff like that. My dad decided that it would be a great idea to let me work the throttle, and, just kind of steer on the water and stuff. Obviously, I'm excited because it's the first time that I've ever done anything like this. I don't know what to expect. I have, like, my imagination just running wild on what I'm going to be able to pull off and the sick tricks and flips and stuff I'm gonna do, but I try to keep it very simple. Keep in mind, at the time that this happened, I didn't understand what inertia is. I didn't understand just how your weight carried if you try to make a sharp turn. So we're on the jet skis. I'm beaming it in a straight line. I'm not worried about making any turns, any crazy curves or anything like that. And I decide, all right, I want to go to a different direction. I want to, veer, whatever. So instead of slowing down and then making a turn how you would in a car or, any other vehicle, I decided, hey, I'm gonna hit this turn super sharp, and I'm pretty sure nothing bad is gonna happen. Next thing I know, I make the turn. I kind of hold on and I feel the jet ski lean, and all of a sudden I hear something hit the water right next to me. Lo and behold, apparently I sent my father flying off of the jet ski. And I mean, he was okay, he landed in the water, and we both laughed about it. I was like, sorry, Dad, my bad. That's my bad, man. I didn't know. Luckily he wasn't mad. He was just, he was like, all right, now don't do anything like that. And we still kind of joke about it every now and then. Another thing, and this is actually something that I realized growing up, and then I understood, when as I matured and became older, or I grew up, the way that my dad used to discipline me is he wouldn't ever actually hit me. He would never strike me. He would never do anything like that. With my father, for some reason, all it took was for him to give me a certain look. If he looked at me a certain way while I was doing something, I knew that I was doing something bad. I knew that I needed to stop it right at that moment. And it worked because, I mean, even as a child, not that I was scared of my dad, but I feel like I understood, even as a child, how to respect my dad and just my parents in general. I understood how to respect them. And so I understood that in order to kind of respect my dad and do what he wanted, anytime that he gave me that look, that was, his cue of telling me, hey, you're messing up, you need to stop. And I understood it, and I actually really, cherish that memory for the simple fact that even more so, I think I understand why he never hit me. Because yes, even though, like spanking your kids may work sometimes, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to handle any certain situation, but there is certain times where that doesn't do anything. And, actually sitting down and talking to them to make them realize what they did was wrong actually is a lot more beneficial and a lot more, not potent, I suppose, but, a lot more useful. And it'll get stuck in their head better than actually just striking them. Alright, and this is not the last story that I have of my dad, but this is one that I will most likely always cherish for myself forever, and hopefully I'll be able to do this kind of stuff with my kids in the future. So, when my father was a younger man, not that he's old, but I like to give him crap sometimes. My dad would play in a softball league and a softball team, with a lot of his other friends. And, growing up, even before I was born, he used to do that. Like, he would play football with his friends, and then he joined a softball league with his friends. And, they would just play in tournaments and stuff against other teams. And it's a funny story because the day that I was born, he was actually at a softball tournament. And it was funny because when he got home, my mom said that she felt like she was ready to have me, and she felt like I was ready to come out into the world, and he didn't even have a chance to shower. He was like, okay, fine, just let me grab this stuff and we'll go. That kind of leads into like the big, story. When I got older, unfortunately, my parents did, get a divorce, so I would live with my mom, but then, I would spend, like, the weekends and stuff with my dad. The weekends was usually when my dad had softball tournaments to go to and stuff, but they started really early. They would start maybe at, like, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, obviously, because I live in Vegas, so if you play any later, it gets crazy hot. So instead of, just leaving me there to sleep and me, spending the day with my grandparents or whatnot, he would actually wake me up with him. When his alarm would go off, he would wake me up and say, okay, I'm going to get ready to go to the game. Get ready so we can go. And I was like, okay. Because honestly, even as a child and even now, I really enjoy spending time with my dad. Like, no matter what, whether we're talking about baseball, whether we're talking about football, current sports events, even just work in general, I enjoy spending time with my dad. And even much so when I was younger, when he was playing softball. So every morning, and this happened no matter what, any softball tournament he had, every morning we would wake up at 6 o'clock. I would get dressed, and sometimes I'd wear just regular clothes, but sometimes I would also get dressed in like baseball clothes because I'd like to feel like I was part of the team, So every morning we would get up, we would actually go to Starbucks. I remember exactly every single drink that we would get. he would get a triple grande mocha, and I would get a hot chocolate. No matter what, no matter how hot it was, how cold it was, any time of the year, any time of the day, whenever he had that tournament and we got up to leave, that was the first thing we did. We stopped and we got Starbucks. Then, of course, throughout the day, he would be playing and I'd kind of go run around with the other kids that were there. But the biggest thing that happened, and he still gives me crap about it to this day, is a bunch of the kids, there was like a playground that was kind of far away from the field where my dad was playing at. And, you know, he's one of those parents where as long as he knows where I am, he's okay, because he would much rather know where I am. That way, if something happens, he can at least find me. But I still felt the need that I had to ask him if I could do certain things, obviously. So when he was at bat, I don't know if you know this, if you've ever played baseball, if you just watch baseball. If you're batting, you have to be really focused, because you have to focus on hitting the ball. You have to get your hand-eye coordination down to be able to hit the ball. And I decided that I needed to ask my dad a question right at that very moment. So I got behind the fence of where home plate was, where he was standing, and I had the bright idea to just start yelling, "Dad." So he was up to bat, and I was like, "Dad, Dad, 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 Dad," and like everybody just started, you know, laughing. Like not only his teammates, but the other team was laughing, and even the umpire behind him was laughing. So he had to call time. He was like, "What?" And I was like, can I go to the playground? And he kind of rolled his eyes. He was like, "Yeah, go." And then I left. And he still uses that against me to this day, because how I've said before how I played baseball in high school. When I was up to bat one day, I wasn't even expecting it either. He gets behind home plate, like, because you know where I was batting, the same thing behind the fence. And all of a sudden I hear, "Fernando, Fernando, Fernando, Fernando." I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And then after that, no matter what, any time that I would be even up to bat, even if we were just practicing, he would be doing that. And that is probably the best and most fond memory that I have, is because we are that close that we can kind of make fun of each other and make light of, you know, silly kid things that you do as kids. But that's actually gonna do it for some of these stories and the fond memories that I have of my dad. I forgot, well, I didn't forget that yesterday was Father's Day. I called him and everything, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a video on that yesterday. But I did, and I wanted to, so I'm gonna post it today, so forgive me. And yeah, because yesterday was Father's Day, I decided to make this video, you know, kind of share some of the memories that I have with my dad. If you guys have any similar memories, or just, you know, good memories that you guys have of your dad, or, you know, if your dad really wasn't in the picture and your mom was your dad, you know, I'd like to know. I'd like to hear some of the stories that you guys have. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, hit the like button for me. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Join the community, join the family, because I always appreciate that. But until next video, I will tell you guys, peace. Did you guys notice how I sound a little bit better and the camera's up front, and how it's bright now? Yep, some stuff be changing, man. Some stuff be changing.